Hey, what's up, guys? This is David Chase Taylor of 911truther.org. Today is April 30th of 2026. So, based on breaking news and events, it appears the CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland is going to stage an escalating series of earth-changing events surrounding Communist Day, Workers' Day of May 1st of 2026. So in the United States, it's celebrated as Workers' Day. In the rest of the world, it's celebrated as Communist Day. And that is because this is a coup day, a coup d'etat that is going to be attempted to be executed by the CIA on multiple levels. Really quickly, the CIA is going to stage earth-changing Defcon-level events on the date of Friday, May 1st of 2026, specifically to spawn a second global biological pandemic and or trigger World War III. I'm going to briefly outline the most likely scenarios, and then I'm going to do a deep dive on the two scenarios which are blinking red for the date of Friday, May 1st, 2026. Firstly, the CIA is planning on staging a World War Z like event. This is going to be a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval offensive targeting multiple continents on the date of May 1st, most likely starting in the Asia-Pacific theater of war and then going around the world, which I'm going to get into much deeper in just a minute. They're also planning on staging a so-called communist coup d'etat. So, of course, as you know, probably know, the CIA has communist parties in virtually every major country in the world. We know who is behind communism. We know who is behind the Bolshevik Revolution, and it's the same people, namely CIA headquarters located beneath CERN at Lake Geneva in Switzerland, that is going to try to overthrow a major country under the guise of an organic communist-backed coup d'etat. These include, but are not limited to, the People's Republic of China, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Republic of India, the Russian Federation, the United States of America, Ukraine, and or North Korea. The CIA is also planning on staging a weaponized biological contagion outbreak somewhere around the world, possibly targeting India on the day of Friday, May 1st of 2026, which will likely be scapegoated onto China. What they're trying to do is essentially stage a second global biological pandemic, and in this particular case, they would blame a communist actor. The CIA is also planning on staging horrific terror attacks and so-called natural disasters surrounding the May 1st Workers' Day, Communist Day parades and festivities that are going to be taking place in multiple nations around the world on Friday, May 1st of 2026. This may be vehicular manslaughter attacks, this may be stampedes or human crushes, it may be mass shootings, it may be bombings, it may be terror attacks, it may be acts of war, it may be biological, radiological, nuclear in nature. But it's going to happen, and this could also feature some sort of accident, such as a bridge collapse, building collapse, or earthquake attack. But some sort of terror events are expected targeting these events taking place on the date of May 1st. Also, the CIA is planning on staging political assassinations that are going to be scapegoated onto so-called communist assassins. We saw this with the burning of the Reichstag building in Berlin, Germany, back in, I believe it was early 30s. My memory doesn't serve, but that is was scapegoated onto a communist actor. This is a CIA playbook that has been used routinely, and so U.S. President Donald J. Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, King Charles III of England, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez, North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are the most likely to suffer some sort of communist, alleged organic communist assassination event. This may be a gunman attack, this may be a firebombing, this may be a suicide bombing, this may be some other act of terrorism, but they are planning on executing one or more heads of state on the date of May 1st, 2026. And I should also add Pope Leo XIV to this equation, because the CIA is desperately trying to assassinate the American Pope under the guise of political blowback from the ongoing Iran war. Also, because it is May 1st and because it is Communist Day, the CIA is planning on staging some sort of communist-related attack. We know it's going to be chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear in nature, and in this particular case, it's 100% certain that the CIA is planning some sort of Chinese or Russian nuclear ICBM strike targeting multiple locations around the world on the date of May 1st of 2026. Lastly, the CIA is planning on staging a Russian military offensive targeting Europe on the date of May 1st of 2026, most likely targeting Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Finland, the Czech Republic, Poland, Germany, and or Ukraine. So before I get into that and do a deep dive on that, I just want to highlight the World War Z scenario, which is a full-scale Chinese, Iranian, or Russian military offensive, likely featuring a made-for-TV attack, bombing, or invasion. China may go into Taiwan or Japan, Iran may go into Israel or Iraq, or target U.S. ships in the Middle East, and Russia, like I mentioned, will likely go into Germany, Poland, Ukraine, or greater NATO nations. What we know about this impending event, if they in fact do this three-pronged attack, targeting multiple nations at the same time on the date of May 1st, 2026, is that it's going to be chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear in nature. It's going to spawn a second global biological pandemic, and it's going to trigger all-out World War III. The notion that the CIA is planning a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian military offensive was most recently highlighted back on January 9th through the 16th of 2026, when the CIA executed Operation Will for Peace off the coast of South Africa, which was a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval exercise. Prior to that, on January 22nd of 2022, the CIA executed Operation Chairu 2022, which was a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval exercise in the Indian Ocean. Prior to that, on December 31st of 2019, the CIA executed a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian naval exercise in the Indian Ocean. And prior to that, on June 14th of 2019, the CIA staged a public meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, and Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Beijing, China, where they were all photographed together. So this is designed to sell the notion that these three actors, these three states, are in fact plotting some sort of naval military offensive. What is imperative to note here, again for the record, is that the CIA has developed what I call a shadow fleet. I believe that the Israeli Navy has potentially the largest navy in the world that is a hidden navy. Essentially what they have done is they have taken decommissioned ships from the United States Navy and the UK Navy, and they've refurbished them. And then they also have prototypes from McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, Raytheon, all these military industrial complex. So they have a stealth navy which boasts roughly, on paper, they admit that they have 10 German-class, Dolphin-class submarines built in the Israeli Navy. So what's going to happen on May 1st of 2026 is that these submarines and these advanced, this shadow fleet of Israel is going to launch a military barrage or a naval military bombardment, I should say a naval bombardment from these submarines, aircraft carriers, and ships, which are able to avoid radar because the CIA controls the radar So they are going to launch a military offensive targeting most likely United States Armed Forces bases in Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, in the Asian Pacific theater, and then of course in the Middle East theater they'll target bases in the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, and that will be done by Iran. And then of course in the European theater they will launch a naval attack targeting UK and US bases in Europe. And so these are all going to be executed by Israeli Navy, which I call the Dark Fleet, and they're likely going to consist of 9/11 style kamikaze suicide drone bombing attacks, ballistic missile strikes, cruise missile strikes, hypersonic missile strikes, and torpedo strikes targeting multiple military installations as pretext for all-out World War III. If the CIA forgoes a joint Chinese, Iranian, and Russian military offensive on the date of May 1st of 2026, they will resort to Plan B, predictably, which is going to be an attack on Europe by the shadow army of Ukraine. So essentially, the CIA is planning a full-scale Israeli Defense Forces and or Armed Forces of Ukraine military offensive targeting multiple locations in Europe and or Russia on the date of May 1st, Communist Day 2026. This is predictably going to be chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear in nature. Is going to be used to spawn a second global biological pandemic, and of course is going to trigger World War III. Basically, the Shadow Army of Ukraine consists of roughly 150,000 Ukrainian troops which have allegedly perished in the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. According to Wikipedia, 140,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died. I believe that these soldiers are in fact alive, and they have been trained to parachute into Europe under the guise of a full-scale Russian military offensive targeting Europe. So we can expect some sort of a storming attack targeting European capitals such as Berlin, Vienna, Warsaw, London, Prague, Kiev, etc., or some sort of cross-border incursion on the Russo-Ukrainian border. So there are NATO military installations all the way from Finland down to Ukraine, and so some sort of cross-border attack is expected. This notion is corroborated by the fact that there is more video footage of the atrocities of the Vietnam War than there are of the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. And this is very strange because every single soldier has a cell phone, and virtually every drone has a video camera, yet we have virtually no footage of all these mass graves and these massacres that are allegedly happening in the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian war. And I believe that is because these soldiers are being trained by NATO forces for a false flag, which would be the biggest false flag ever, likely manpower-wise, ever staged by the CIA, which would feature roughly 150,000 Ukrainian troops entering Europe wearing Belarusian or Russian military uniforms. And this notion is corroborated by the fact that back on December 9th of 2025, Royal Air Force paratrooper George Hooley died in a training accident in Ukraine. And this is an apparent blood sacrifice that was offered up by the CIA to this impending attack. The notion that the CIA would launch a 150,000-man military incursion or a Russian military offensive into Europe is corroborated by the fact that back on January 10th through the 16th of 2025, the CIA executed Operation Zapad 2025, which featured 150,000 Russian troops participating in a chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear exercise in Belarus, which is on the border of NATO. The word Zapad in Russian translates to west in English, and this is because these forces are going to be going west into Europe. Prior to that, the CIA executed Operation Zapad 2021, which also featured 150,000 Russian military forces in Belarus back on September 10th through the 15th of 2021. So we have coincidentally 140,000 alleged fatalities of Ukrainian troops, and then we have two exercises of 150,000 troops by Russia in Belarus, and this is designed to foreshadow this mass movement of troops, which will likely feature 140,000 man Ukrainian military incursion into Europe, multiple nations in Europe, under the guise of a full-scale Russian military offensive. And then, of course, we have Operation Breaking Dawn back on August 5th of 2022, which was 25,000 Israeli defense forces which were activated, I believe, for this war. And those Israeli military forces will likely attack capital cities under the guise of Russian special forces based siege of those capitals. So just to recap, the CIA is plotting earth-changing Defcon-level events on the date of May 1st, Friday, 2026, specifically to spawn a second global biological pandemic and or trigger World War III. This is all going to be executed out of Geneva, Switzerland. The notion that Switzerland is in fact the root of communism is evident all over Switzerland, where they have the Hammering Man, which is this big iron statue with the hammer that is featured in the hammer and sickle symbol, hammering 24/7. It's a mechanical statue. And you can look it up. It's called Hammering Man, and that is because communism is a Jewish creation that was created in Switzerland, and that is why multiple communist leaders, such as Lenin and Marx, all came from or have links to Switzerland. So this is a Swiss coup under the guise of the left cover from communist cover. And the notion that the CIA plans to do this is evident by the fact that they have a communist, Zoran Mandami, that is now the mayor of New York. So they are moving this direction. And we're going to see this movement, this communist movement, take a big step forward on May 1st when Switzerland orders a military offensive by communist nations such as China or Russia, communist coup d'etats overthrowing the natural order of nations such as China, Iran, India, Russia, United States, Ukraine, and or North Korea, biological outbreaks that are going to be blamed on communist actors, terror attacks, bombings, and political assassinations targeting President Trump, Vladimir Putin, King Charles, Maloney, Sanchez, Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, or Modi of India, and or earth-changing nuclear attacks are expected. They are expected on May 1st of 2026. And lastly, of course, some sort of shadow strike by the Shadow Army of Ukraine and or the Shadow Army of Israel. Basically, both are led by rabid Jewish Zionists. In Israel, you have Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a Polish Jew, and then you have Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who's a Ukrainian Jew, and they are going to try to trigger World War III on the communist date of May 1st, 2026. Obviously, if this comes to fruition in reality, I would kindly ask that you download this video and share it with local, state, and federal law enforcement, military, and intelligence officials, as well as with local, national, and international media outlets. Praying for a peaceful May 1st of 2026. And lastly, I should say, just for the record, that if in fact the CIA forgoes all the aforementioned scenarios that I've just laid out ad nauseum, for the date of May 1st of 2026, they will likely resort to some sort of celebrity blood sacrifice that will likely be blamed on a communist actor. We have to remember that Luigi Mangione, a CIA assassin that killed United Healthcare president in New York City via gunman attack, this was designed to foreshadow and set the precedent for a secondary attack. And that may happen on May 1st, Communist Day, and then subsequently blamed on a possibly mentally ill assassin that has communist links. So we have to also watch out for that. Peace.